Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I would like to thank you all for being here this evening to honor 11 outstanding people. That's 10 retiring faculty and Dr. Smith, who have given outstanding contributions to the university. They've really helped to make the university what it is today, so it's our honor to honor them tonight. I would also like to thank our amazing jazz trio and Jeff Jarvis for the beautiful music during the reception. The trio is made up of Kyle Schaefer on piano, Nick Ornelas on bass, and Tyler Krudel on drums. So can we give them a round of applause? And before going further, I would like to invite our president, President Connolly, to provide some opening remarks.
So let me add my welcome to this celebration of our retiring faculty and legacy lecture. I'm very excited about that. You know, it's a great opportunity and a great honor for me to serve this university. It's now been 1 year and about 3 months. Actually, I'm not counting. I'm not counting, but it is the university that you, our retirees, built. So I thank you for that. It continues to be a wonderful achievement, and your achievements are really immeasurable. And I really mean that because professors and other staff at university really have such influence on the person, but the person over time in our students. And there's no way to predict the length of their accomplishment, the length of their contributions, but we know from their stories, and recently in something maybe you didn't read, but in a long Facebook post, it was National Teachers Day yesterday, right, or day before yesterday. You don't read the Facebook, perhaps, but I do, because you never know what's being happened there. And hundreds of students got online to talk about professors, current and past, who'd made a difference in their lives. And I was so moved by their little vignettes. They can do more than 140 characters, but they're not used to doing more than 140 characters, so it kind of goes that way. So, you know, and your achievements, span all the important roles of our faculty. You certainly have strengthened our academic foundation by your work in your fields, your scholarly and creative activities. You've really set a standard for world-class teaching and learning and sending our students into the world as civic-minded, well-informed, artistic, and contributing citizens. And once again, let me say, because of the work I do, I'm out meeting alums all the time. And I hope you would be inspired to know what they say about their experience here. And their experience here is mainly rooted in their interactions with the faculty. So thank you for that. And very importantly for me, you've really been the inventors, really, of creating a campus culture that honors learning and discovery and innovation. And that's so important for the 21st century. So you've invented that, and you've really been part of inventing the future through our students and through your own work. So I'm really sincerely grateful for all you've done. I didn't have the honor of knowing many of you while you're here. I don't know what I've been doing. I could tell you, but follow me on Twitter, and then you'll know everything I do. Because if it's not on Twitter, I haven't really done it, or it's a secret. No, I made that up. There are no secrets. Okay, but your work prior to my coming a year or so ago has made my transition here very, very easy and really quite joyful. So I thank you for that. So I hope you enjoy your next adventures, whatever they may be. I hope you'll keep in touch with the beach. Sometimes you will hear news that you will celebrate. You'll think, wow, that university is really moving ahead. Other times you'll hear news that appalls you. What is she thinking? Why would she change that? You know, I hope that happens only rarely, but let me hear from you no matter what, because your wisdom has guided this university until this point, and I can tell you it's a great university. Go Beach.
Facebook and my boss keeps me too busy to read Facebook or Twitter, so I don't know about any of those kinds of things, I'm sorry to say.
That's why I can.
Thank you, President Connolly. Now it is my privilege to recognize our retiring faculty. Together they have a total of more than, shall we do a pool? How many years do you think our retiring faculty collectively have? How many think less than 100? How many think 100 to 150? Okay, we got one guess. 150 to 200? Okay, two guesses. 200 to 250? Ah, got quite a few guesses. 250 to 300? Ah, there we go. 300 and above? Wow. 270 is the actual years of service collectively at CSULB. But boy, have they contributed a great deal to our campus. The number of lives they have touched is immeasurable. As you hear about some of their accomplishments, I think you will agree with me that what they have achieved during their time here is truly impressive and amazing, and has contributed mightily, as Jane said, to the building of this young institution. A little over half of them are failing retirement because they're entering the FERT program, which will get their teaching loads down to what they should have always been, but will continue to keep them among us, for which we are grateful. And those of you who are not going to enter the FERT program, I hope that you too will come to campus events and be around to say hello. Some of you are friends of mine, and I was just talking to Xiaoping, who's here somewhere, I think. Yeah, I would truly love to stay in touch with many of you. We are fortunate that our junior faculty have had such outstanding mentors, and they and we really do stand on the shoulders of giants. So let's have a round of applause for all of our. I'm going to ask each faculty member to stand when I call your name, and I would ask President Connolly to join me on stage. She gets to hand out the loot. Yes. So let's begin with Kay Ernie. Our first faculty member is Kay Ernie, a professor and former chair of physical therapy. Dr. Cerny was instrumental in establishing the Doctorate of Physical Therapy program at CSULB, which was critical to ensuring the program's continued success. She has received numerous awards, including the Royce Noland Award of Merit, which is the highest award of the California Physical Therapy Association. Dr. Cerny.
I haven't prepared anything to talk for 2 minutes, but I want you to know that I'm here because I wanted to meet Dr. Connolly, mainly because I've heard so much about her and been so impressed with the information that I've gotten from her. And I thank you all for coming, and it's been a great pleasure and to work here. And I'm FERPing, so I really am not going away. Yay.
Robert Francis is a professor and former chair of geological sciences. Throughout his career, he has been highly regarded by his colleagues as an excellent educator, one who truly cares for his students. His research on active faults, like the San Andreas of Southern California, has produced results of importance for understanding potential earthquake hazards for the Los Angeles region. Very reassuring work. And led the training of several graduate students in marine seismic methods. Dr. Francis.
Coming from a small department, I've had the privilege of teaching virtually every one of our undergraduate majors over the last 28 years in upper division. And so there's about 250 professionals out there. And we professors like to get grants, publish papers, and do all of these things, but as far as I'm concerned, the best measure of our success is all those people out there and what they're doing in their careers. And I would say that as far as I'm concerned, I've been successful to the extent that they have exceeded what I've been able to do in their careers.
Yeah, very well said. Barry LeVay, professor of kinesiology and of the Adaptive Physical Education Specialist Credential Coordinator. Barry LeVay has helped prepare hundreds of our students for jobs teaching physical education to individuals with disabilities. He's also been director of the university's after-school adapted physical activity program and Camp Nugget, a program in which our students provide children with disabilities with physical activity experiences every summer. And I want to say I've, on several occasions, been to Camp Nugget and seen what goes on, and I just have the highest respect for what Barry has done for those young people and for our students. So thank you, Barry.
Well, thank you, everybody. I just wanted to say just a few words, and one of the things I wanted to, when I came here on campus in 1988, just the growth that I've witnessed over the the culture and the change of our university. It's been rewarding to see that change. Also, I'm thankful for the FERP program. I think that's an important program and an important program that we should continue to have, the FERP program, because it really gives a lot of us an opportunity to figure out what we're going to do next. And like Kay said, I'm not going away, and I think it's many of us, we get conditioned as professors, we get on that treadmill and we never really get off, and this is a chance for us to really examine our careers. I certainly want to thank the university, but most importantly my home, which was the College of Health and Human Services and the Department of Kinesiology. They have always been very, very supportive of my teaching, my scholarship, my service. And one of the things, for example, one thing that's always been amazing to me, David mentioned about Camp Nugget and our programs for children with disabilities that are on campus. Anytime I've reached out to somebody on campus and asked them for support, they've always been very, very willing to do that and help us out, from everything from parking to all those types of things that make, those types of on-campus programs go. And I think those are important on-campus programs as far as for teaching. For many of our students, it's the first time they get to really get experiences working with children with disabilities, but it really bridges the gap between theory and practice. But most important, those on-campus programs are really an important community service, and those parents are very, very thankful for the ability for us to provide quality service for us. And over the 40 years that I've been involved with disability, I've seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth, but it's still very challenging for parents to receive quality services if they have a child with special needs. So, and then finally, I think most importantly, I want to thank the professors and the students that have challenged me over the years and allowed me to grow. And for me, similar to what Dr. Francis was saying, for me, the most important thing and the most rewarding thing is seeing the growth in my students. And when I go to conferences and I can connect again with alumni, we have a very strong alumni base, and they make the program really, and my job very rewarding. So thank you very much.
Arlene Lazarowitz is a professor of history whose expertise in the United States political and diplomatic history, including American Jewish history, American foreign relations, American politics and elections, and issues in the history of American immigration. She has been a valued member of the history department and played a vital role in creating the Jewish Studies program. Dr. Lazarowitz, would you want me to bring a mic? Yeah. We may need tech support here, Linda. Let's see.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to say thank you, Vincent.
Okay.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Xiaoping Liang is a professor of linguistics. She played a primary role in the development and implementation of the Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages concentration within the linguistics graduate program. It's the largest concentration in the program, and she has promoted study abroad in the department, teaching courses in China and Vietnam for about 10 summers. And she, one memorable year, took me to China and educated me wonderfully, and I've used the knowledge I learned on that trip. It was just a fantastic trip, so I'm eternally grateful to Xiaoping for her contributions.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the Linguistics Department, the College of Liberal Arts, and the university for having given me this opportunity to work with great supporting faculty, department chairs in a collegiate, nurturing environment. If I have done anything, good to the students and the university, it was all because of this opportunity. I've worked in different countries and continents, and my experience at CSULB is definitely the highlight of my career and life. So thank you so much for everybody.
Stephen Manley has been a professor in biological sciences since 1988. He is well known for initiating Kelp Watch, an international effort to determine the extent of radioactive contamination of California's kelp forest from Japan's damaged Fukushima nuclear plant. Dr. Manley.
I've had a very successful and satisfying career here at Cal State Long Beach. It's due primarily, however, to early faculty mentoring that I received, very supportive colleagues and friends, and of course, hard work. I came here with a full head of hair. But I do want to thank my first chairman, Dr. David Soltz, and my first faculty mentor, Dr. Jim Barrett. I also want to acknowledge two very close friends, Dr. Charles Galt and Dr. Zed Mason, for all their support. I'm very proud of the fact that I've graduated and trained some very fantastic master's students over the years, two of which won outstanding thesis in the college. That was because they were great, not because I was super great. But I'm very proud of them. I'm also proud to say that I was on the hiring committee that hired and supported the hiring of the shark doctor, Dr. Chris Lowe. That's probably my major accomplishment, because he's been very great for the Marine program of which I've been a part. Thank you.
Richard Nguyen is a professor and former chair of Civil Engineering and Construction Engineering Management. Dr. Nguyen is known for consistently exhibiting a desire for academic excellence. Whether serving as a faculty member or department chair, he never lost sight of student success ideals. Dr. Nguyen.
Every faculty have a story, and my story very much different from others. I came to this country as a refugee and got a degree, and 31 years ago, I received a call from the president and the provost. And when they call me, I don't know who they are. I said, what are you talking about? Oh, I said, this is June Copper. I am a president and I want to offer you a job. I said, June Copper, you seem like a nice lady. So finally I came here, and ever since I would like to take this opportunity to thank the university for giving me a very good opportunity to serve the student, to serve the university, and to serve the community. And I never forget where I came from, because this is the place that helped me tremendously to raise my family, to take care of my kid, and finally to settle down in America. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Leslie Swaggart came to CSULB in 1971. She was the longtime librarian for English, Comparative World Literature and Classics, and had a phenomenal working relationship with faculty in those areas. She is also the official bibliographer. Tracy Mayfield said it was very important that I get that correct, bibliographer, for George R.R. Martin, who is best known as the author of the Game of Thrones series, a mega blockbuster. Ms. Swaggart.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I miss my colleagues, and both in the library and in my various departments and elsewhere on campus. The only thing I don't really miss is that commute, West LA. But, and for those of you who are still interested in the subject, I am still working on the dissertation. I did it backwards from most of you guys. I got my terminal degree, got a job, and then ended up going for a PhD. So someday, it will be done.
Now, we had one more honoree, Alejandra Edwards from Econ, but did she ever come in? No, okay, so she was unable to join us, but let me just say a word about her. An econ professor known for her outstanding contributions outside the university. She was an economist at the World Bank as well as within her department, and she provided important leadership within the econ department and to students, serving for many years as director of graduate programs and assistant chair. And as a testament to her legacy, many of her former graduate students are now in positions of authority and great responsibility worldwide. So let's give her a round of applause if we may. Let's give all of our retiring faculty members one more round of applause. Sorry? I'm sorry? Linda? Well, please, do come up. Yeah, please. Please do, yes. I'm extremely sorry that we don't have notes about you, but welcome, and I'm delighted to hear it. Congratulations.
We could give her 2 of these.
Well, I want to tell a little story from a long time ago. I've been here 30 years, so I have one story from a long time ago. In the late 1980s, someone from the Chancellor's office decided that they wanted to have 3 or 4 math educators from different campuses and himself connected by computer. This is in the 80s. We were supposed to send messages to each other through a computer that was housed in Sacramento. We were given modems. I don't remember, but I think I had to put the phone into it. Yes. And after many trials, eventually I got my Apple II to link up. I knew all of the other people involved in the project. The problem was we didn't really have anything to say to one another at the time. And I think at one point I got a message from the Chancellor's office via the computer in Sacramento, and it basically asked me to send a message to one of the others. I think it would have been easier to call me. We did eventually send some messages back and forth, although the technology at the time made that very difficult. And that was the beginning of email on this campus. So it was a long time ago. And my 30 years have gone very fast, and I'm on the FERC program, so I haven't quite left yet either. But I've always felt that Cal State Long Beach is in a unique position to help train K-12 math teachers, both in Orange County and from LA County. And our programs will continue to grow and prosper. And as I look forward, I know we will continue to be the campus of choice for people who want to be good math teachers, K-12. Thank you. Go Beach.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, many of you are in the FERP program and still teaching, but after you leave, I hope that you will maintain a strong connection with the university that you have helped to shape. And now we're going to take a short break before we begin the Legacy Lecture, about 5 minutes, and I would like to ask all of the retiring faculty to join me on stage for our group photo. So 5 minutes, and one more round of applause as we do this, please. As many of you know, the Legacy Lecture was started in the 1990s as a way for educators to address the university community as if it were their last lecture, sharing personal reflections, beliefs, values, and visions as educators. I've attended a number of these over the years, and some of them have been very memorable for me personally. We are fortunate tonight to have Craig Smith, Distinguished Communication Studies Professor and founder of the Center for First Amendment Studies, as this year's speaker. Craig is known both for his work as a presidential speechwriter and for his scholarly work on First Amendment issues. He has been honored numerous times for teaching, for leadership, and research by CSULB, as well as by the National Communication Association. And although he has retired nominally, he is just as busy as ever, teaching, traveling, giving lectures. He will have 2 books out next year. Dr. Smith, thank you for being with us. We welcome you to the podium.
I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank my dean for being here, my provost for being here, my president for being here. Thank God the chancellor's not here. I want to dedicate this lecture to 2 women who were very influential in my life. The first is Nancy Briggs. Nancy gave the first legacy lecture from a faculty member from our department. And the reason that this is so important to me is I would never have come to Cal State Long Beach had it not been for Nancy. There were a few faculty members who didn't know whether I could lecture or not because I'd been out of academia for 10 years. And when I came back to campus for my second interview and gave a lecture on Webster, Daniel Webster, the senator, Nancy taped it and showed those professors who didn't come to my lecture that I could teach. And so I was hired, and that was 27 years ago. So thank you very much, Nancy, for doing that. The second person I want to dedicate the legacy lecture to is the person who gave the first legacy lecture, and that was our good friend Helen Gildy. Helen was chair of the English department. She was chair of the academic senate. She was a lady in the true sense of the word. I had not met Helen, but I came to the first legacy lecture to see what it would be like. And Helen had a group of administrators in the front row. And at one point during her speech, she referred to them as Philistines. And I thought that took enormous courage, and I met with her afterwards, and we struck up a friendship that led to many evenings where we talked late into the night about ideas, her work on Edmund Spencer, the work that I did in other areas. Well, wouldn't you know that one of those Philistines, being a good speaker, became enamored of a unifying metaphor a few years later when he became president of this university. He said that we should operate like a business, that the students were on an assembly line, that the faculty were the line workers, that the administrators would serve as foremen and executives. I doubt if anyone in this room accepts that model for a university. What is the university then? On the assembly line, one size fits all. In a university, as my friend Carl Squitier sitting back there likes to point out, no size fits all. Each student has a unique soul, which contains unique talents. As faculty, our job is to tap those talents, encourage their development, and reward them. And while we challenge our students, they must challenge us. Many of my publications are the result of an idea that some student in some classroom had sparked. I've co-authored articles with students starting with Paul Prince in 1989. I've taken constructive criticism from students, most recently from Anthony Cuomo. It's not always nice, but he spares me putting up with those remarks from editors at journals. In between, I've had the honor of teaching many students, some of whom have completed master's degrees under my direction, many of whom have gone off and gotten PhDs, and wonderfully enough have returned here to be on our faculty, like Kevin Johnson and Jennifer Asinas. Like Jefferson, some of us come to believe that that administration which governs least governs best. That means creating an environment that allows academic freedom to flourish. In fact, freedom of expression on campuses has been given greater protection by the Supreme Court than in any other forum. In West Virginia versus Barnett, Justice Robert Jackson, speaking for the majority, wrote that, quote, "If there is a fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion," unquote. I firmly believe that academic freedom is what makes the system work. It gives us the right to freely pursue knowledge within the realm of course content and our own research agendas. That means that there is a free marketplace of ideas on campuses where rational and civil discourse refines what is believed to be knowledge. In fact, a number of court decisions protect individual scholars and students from their own academic institutions. These precedents have generally been recognized as a special nature in the academic community, where faculty members operate as partners and colleagues to instill knowledge in students. Perhaps nowhere on earth are the purposes of free speech pursued with more vigor than on our campuses. We hope to embody John Stuart Mill's marketplace of ideas so that the truth can be pursued. We hope to promote Thomas Epperson's goal of providing a place where individuals can express themselves creatively. We hope to promote Alexander Meiklejohn's notion that free speech is essential to self-governance. We call it shared governance on the campus. Within the academic marketplace of ideas, we follow certain guidelines. These include the presentation of responsible dissenting viewpoints in unsettled subject areas, particularly in the humanities. We recommend hiring faculty with a view toward fostering a diversity of methodologies and perspectives. We understand that faculty should not take an unfair advantage of students' captive audience status by indoctrinating them with the teacher's own opinions before students have had the opportunity fairly to examine other options upon these matters in question. Students should be free to take reasoned exceptions to the data or views offered in any course of studies and to reserve judgment about matters of opinion. Today, I want to show that we can better understand our academic freedom and how it works if we understand its evolution. In the United States, the unique treatment by the courts of the rights of universities was first established in the Dartmouth College case. In 1820, Daniel Webster used the case to force the Supreme Court to recognize that academic institutions were special and best served their purposes when free from political interference or the threat of external intervention. In 1915, the newly formed American Association of University Professors set out its definition of academic freedom, which guaranteed protection for freedom of inquiry and research, freedom to teach subject matter in the university, and freedom to speak out on public issues outside the university. Universities are obligated to promote inquiry and critical thinking in the process of developing new knowledge and review accumulated knowledge. They are to provide instruction to students. Often, this injunction means that a university will be a haven from the storm of opinion generated by an uneducated public. It means that faculty and students may publish their research and defend it. In 1915, the AAUP declaration also held that faculty were responsible for, and I quote, purging its ranks of the incompetent and unworthy, and to prevent the freedom which it claims in the name of science from being used as a shelter for inefficiency, for superficiality, and for uncritical and intemperate partisanship, unquote. During the McCarthy era, political interference with campuses was rampant. Professors who refused to take loyalty oaths were fired. Professors who took the Fifth Amendment before Congress were fired even if they had tenure and even if they taught at such bastions of libertarian thinking as the University of California. The U.S. Supreme Court provided some relief. For example, in Wyman versus Updegraff in 1952, the Supreme Court struck down a law that did not allow faculty who once belonged to the Communist Party to become professors. The defense of academic freedom evolved further in the 1970s. In Regents of California versus Bakke, the court said this about creating an environment for academic freedom. Academic freedom, though not a specifically enumerated constitutional right, long has been viewed as a special concern of the First Amendment. The freedom of a university to make its own judgments as to education includes the selection of its student body. At issue was academic freedom in the context of an institution's right of self-government. The courts have also extended this protection to individual faculty members. In Sloshauer versus the Board of Higher Education, the Supreme Court considered whether a tenured teacher in a public college could be discharged without notice or hearing because he or she refused to answer a legislative committee's question concerning membership in the Communist Party. The court held that Professor Slochauer's constitutional rights had been violated. It ruled that while city authorities were permitted to scrutinize a person's fitness to hold a public position, they could not do so without affording procedural protection. Shortly thereafter, in Sweezy versus New Hampshire, the Supreme Court was faced with the question of whether the Attorney General of New Hampshire could prosecute an individual for refusal to answer questions about a lecture delivered at the state university concerning socialism. The Attorney General had legislative authority to compel testimony because the New Hampshire legislature had passed laws that provided for the regulation of subversive activities. Subversive persons were made ineligible for employment by the state government, including public educational institutions. The Supreme Court held that the Attorney General had exceeded his authority in questioning Sweezy. Therefore, the Attorney General had violated the 14th Amendment's due process clause. In holding for the teacher, the court weighed the state's interest against Sweezy's First Amendment right to, quote, academic freedom and political expression. The court issued a stressing ruling saying the essentiality of freedom in the community of American universities is very important, and we must not impose any straitjacket upon the intellectual leaders in our colleges and universities. Sweezy was a landmark First Amendment case for the 1950s, but the U.S. Supreme Court most significant pronouncement on academic freedom came in the 1960s in the Keishian decision. The case involved faculty members whose jobs were endangered when they refused to sign loyalty oaths. The certificates were aimed at preventing state employment of subversive persons. The court held the New York scheme unconstitutionally vague. Quote, our nation is deeply committed to safeguarding academic freedom, which is of transcendent value to all of us and not merely to the teachers concerned. The freedom is therefore a special concern of the First Amendment, which does not tolerate laws that cast a pall of orthodoxy over the classroom. Because the case involved individual professors suing for the protection from both the state law and the state university enforcing the law, the case reaffirmed that academic freedom protects individuals even from the institutions in which they are employed. Writing for the court, Justice William Brennan argued, quote, the theory that public employment may be subjected to any conditions regardless of how unreasonable has uniformly been rejected. It is too late in the day to doubt that the liberties of religion and expression may be infringed by the denial of or placing conditions upon benefit or privilege, unquote. In National Gay Task Force versus the Board of Education, an Oklahoma statute requiring teachers who advocated homosexual activity to be fired was struck down, thank God, on the grounds that the First Amendment does not permit someone to be punished for advocating illegal conduct at some indefinite time in the future. Now, having defined faculty protections, I want to turn to student protections. What speech by students is protected by academic freedom? Students not only enjoy academic freedom in the classroom, their First Amendment rights have been protected in some cases on the campus outside of learning environments. While students have a long and noble history when it comes to the creation of universities and protesting various issues, they sometimes return to a marginalized state due to the power structure of most universities or the fact that students simply move on and allow disputes to die. It was students who formed the first universities at Paris and Bologna in 1200. They were in charge of the administration, of hiring and firing faculty. The first student rebellion in America occurred at Harvard University in 1766, 10 years before the Revolution. It concerned contaminated butter being served in the dining halls. Inspired by William Lloyd Garrison in 1833, students at Amherst College protested slavery. By the 1920s, underground student newspapers were common, and they would flourish during the Depression. The Gadfly at Harvard, the Tempest at the University of Michigan, the Critic at Yale were typical of the times. In the 1930s, there was a national student strike against war. There was also a national student strike in favor of fighting fascism, particularly during the Spanish Civil War. These rights have been codified into court precedent. In 1943, in West Virginia versus Barnett, Justice Robert Jackson wrote that student freedoms must be protected if we are not to strangle the free mind at its source. 26 years later, the court took up Tinker versus Des Moines, a landmark decision on First Amendment rights of students. Tinker involved 3 high school students who were suspended from school for wearing black armbands as a symbolic protest against the Vietnam War. The Supreme Court held that the suspension violated the students' right to freedom of expression. The court said students do not, quote, shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. While the court has narrowed the application of this important ruling over the last few years, it is held that administrations have the burden of proof in cases where student speech is censored. So what kinds of speech can be censored? The answer is speech that presents a true threat to an individual or a learning environment. In U.S. versus Kellner in 1976, the court ruled that a threat that was, quote, unequivocal, unconditional, immediate, and specific as to the person threatened, as to convey a gravity of purpose and imminent prospect of execution, was prohibitable and punishable. Such speech is not protected by the First Amendment. Furthermore, in Haley versus James, the Supreme Court ruled that speech that is, quote, likely to materially and substantially disrupt the work and learning environment is not protected by the First Amendment. Thus, it is clear that restrictions on student speech must be specified and related to a true threat to an individual or a disruption of the learning environment in order for that speech to be censored or prohibited. In the time allotted, I could not cover all of the issues facing academic freedom. Social media have created myriad challenges to academic freedom. The dust is yet to settle on posting sexist language about teachers and students, about texting in the classroom, and about posting professors' rants on YouTube. We also need to be vigilant, in my opinion, in preserving academic freedom from encroachments from the right and the left, each of which is attempting to advance its own orthodoxy at the expense of heterodoxy. The right worries about the indoctrination of students by professors advancing their own ideologies. While faculty need to keep their courses open to all responsible sides of various questions, in this case, I believe the right sells students short. They are pretty quick to recognize when their professors have abandoned the open-ended pursuit of knowledge to advance some ideology that is their favorite pet. However, the left also poses a threat to academic freedom when, by applying the straitjacket of political correctness to pursue knowledge. While various censorship schemes have been struck down by the court, the invisible hand of political correctness continues to censor faculty in department meetings, in personnel meetings, and in RTP meetings. Some campuses have gone so far as to require syllabi to carry warnings that material in the course may offend student sensibilities, though it is nearly impossible to determine what material will set off which student. At the University of California, President Janet Napolitano has listed the following phrases as microaggressions, that is, words that could offend or be racist. These included, quote, America is a melting pot, unquote. I guess we really are a salad. I'm not sure whether I want to be a piece of melted cheese or a cucumber, but I understand where she's coming from. Here's another one from Napolitano's list. I believe the most qualified person should get the job. Now, I suspect that the UC president finds this code for discrimination, but if qualifications for job selection are to be thrown aside, What criteria do we use for employment? Finally, Napolitano lists, quote, "America is the land of opportunity," unquote. I must say I have always been offended by the overly eulogistic portrayals of America, particularly among politicians who believe America is exceptional, a shining city on the hill, with a mission to set an example for the world while we were going out and eviscerating Native Americans. However, I would never censor those politicians' rights to say such things. Thus, I challenge you to defend academic freedom from these forays from the left and the right. I am proud to say that this campus has taken up that challenge. No stronger evidence can provide for that claim that a conservative, gay, Catholic Republican has been chosen for the honor you have paid me today by allowing me to deliver this legacy lecture.
That was splendiferous. Let's have another round of applause for him. That was amazing. Greg, I hope that you will not be a stranger. I expect and hope to see you around frequently. What amazing contributions you have made to our university. And that was made me want to ask you a dozen questions. Maybe I can grab you and do that. So thank you all for being with us tonight. It's been a great event. Thank you so much.
Greg, that was, yes, freedom, my brother. Oh. How you doing, Jay?